This is Carl King, and I am here connected via many very long cables all the way to Portland, Oregon, with Chris Higgins, the producer, creator of the new Tetris documentary series, Best of 5 movie. Wait. Is that right?
Best of 5, the Tetris Master, the Tetris Champion. Oh, God. Best of 5, the Tetris Champions.
And this is a pretty informal chat. We're going to make lots of mistakes. And I just wanted to record us talking briefly about what it is we're doing and give an update, because I have several questions. Higgins, what the heck are we doing? What are we making? What's going on?
I like to shorten the name of this movie or whatever series to Best of 5, just so we have a way to talk about it. But it is a documentary series. It's about the Classic Tetris World Championship, which we also abbreviate to CTWC. The Classic Tetris World Championship is the world's largest competitive Tetris event. It's an annual thing. I believe we've had 10 years running, and they just announced yesterday there's, the 11th year is coming up now in 2021. Back in 2014, I shot a bunch of stuff, and Carl, you worked with me on some of the post interviews as well. I shot the 5th year of that competition. And in fact, the first year of that competition was really heavily documented in another documentary called Ecstasy of Order.
The first one was Ecstasy of Order.
Yeah, so Ecstasy of Order, with the subtitle, I think, The Tetris Masters, is about the creation of this championship event.
Okay.
And so when you see an Ecstasy of Order, like basically that's Robin Mahara, who was himself he was the 3rd place winner of the Nintendo World Championships, which is an event that happened back in, I believe, 1990 or 91-ish. That's what the movie The Wizard was kind of basically about. Ecstasy of Order, as a documentary, was an attempt to figure out who's the best Nintendo Tetris player in the world. And it's kind of an interesting question because that actually is an outgrowth of the Nintendo World Championship, where there were 3 games that were played together in sequence. And the only one that you actually had much variance in was Tetris. So effectively, the winner of Nintendo World Championship, Thor Ackerland, the thing that distinguished him from the other players the most was his ability at Tetris. So these folks said, hey, what if we just played the Tetris part, not just, combining it with these other games? Because oddly enough, there was still substantial movement happening on this pretty ancient game. I mean, the NES Tetris came out in 1989. And even today, there's more interest in this game than there probably was at the time, frankly.
And so right now, the team working on this documentary series, I believe, is you and I at the moment, right?
Welcome to the team. To pick any desk, they're all yours. Yeah, it's you and me. And there are we've had a couple people come in and go, hired a researcher at one point. And some of those people may come back in some roles. Also hired a bunch of folks to design stickers and other things that I just don't do. I shot all this stuff in 2014 and 2015. So the actual event occurred 7 years ago, as we're talking now. And then, since then, surprisingly, lots of stuff has happened, both in the production of the movie and also, the world. But at this point, there's been a crowdfunding campaign. So I went on Kickstarter last year and raised some money to do this. And the other thing to understand about the movie is I picked the 5th year to document it. And there's a whole story as to why I picked that 5th year and how other people who are still on the movie got involved in that decision. But the sort of the challenge facing the Tetris community and facing the competition in some ways was that one guy, this guy Jonas Neubauer, Jonas was absolutely dominant in this tournament. He won the 1st year and the 2nd year and the 3rd year and the 4th year. And so when the 5th year rolled around, I got a call from my friend Adam Cornelius, who had directed Ecstasy of Order. And he and I had been doing a different film. We had tried to do a film about, oddly enough, Dogecoin. We were way ahead of our time. Couldn't raise the money to do it. And he said, listen, man, I know you've been wanting to do a documentary about something. Why don't you just kind of like do Ecstasy of Order over again, but do it about the tournament this year, the Tetris tournament this year?
So he approached you about it.
Yeah, I mean, he floated it as, hey, I think this would be a good idea. And he also pointed out that we had a player in Portland, Terry Purcell, he had gone from, I think he was 19th place in the year before 2014. In the intervening year, Terry had done extreme training, and he lived 10 minutes from me. So I had a guy in town that I could go talk to who was breaking records left and right. I mean, he was the fastest to various, basically pick an early record, just in terms of somebody who sat down and just put in tons of time on the game. So very promising player who we were pretty sure could go all the way, and he's in my backyard. And also I've got the guy who directed the Tetris documentary, right, and who runs the tournament, saying, hey, I'll give you access to this whole thing. Maybe you want to take a run at it. And I was like, sure. So it was very quick when it came up. But basically I just grabbed my camera and went over to Terry's house and sat down in his basement and started talking.
So this series is going to be more based on a specific event that happened. It's going to be interviews and a lot of extended gameplay from that tournament, as opposed to more of a road adventure like Ecstasy of Order was.
So Ecstasy of Order was... yeah, it's kind of a road movie. It's like, let's, round up the team, figure out who all the possible competitors are going to be, and then we'll bring them all back to, I think it was in Los Angeles that first year. We'll do this kind of tournament, and then we'll see who's the best. And it's a great movie. It's definitely, the hope is that people will also watch that movie. You don't have to have watched either one of these things to understand the other one. But this thing, Best of Five, focuses on the fifth year of that tournament. So we covered the ever living heck out of it. We had, 6 camera people roving around all day, tournament day. We interviewed for weeks before, we interviewed for up to a year after, just tracking down the people who had the most, the biggest, basically, impact. And I got, no spoilers, but I got really lucky in the people that I picked to interview beforehand and kind of follow to see what would happen that year. And again, it's kind of interesting to release a competition sports type of movie 7 years after the sport occurred. So if you care much about the specific outcome, you could just Google it, right? But, that's not really why you're watching it. You're watching it because we've discovered since then that people really like watching Tetris. I really like watching Tetris. I find it really kind of relaxing and engaging. I like watching Tetris more than I like playing Tetris, because playing Tetris kind of stresses me out. I'm not very good at it, but watching people who are the best in the world do it is totally engaging. And then having there be understanding why it matters for them, what are the stakes for those people? That's what this series is about. By the way, one other quick note, I'm kind of proud of this idea. I don't know whether it actually matters in the real world, but the original idea was feature documentary, which usually means, somewhere between 1 hour and 2 hours tops for the whole thing. And one of the big problems, one of the reasons that I had trouble when I went into editing in 2015 was I could not find a way to cram the gameplay into that amount of time. And the more I looked at it, the more I was like, there are so many games that are relevant and interesting that actually I think people would want to watch the game, actually what happened, And I know it's just a puzzle game or whatever, but the game was so significant that I was just like, how in the world am I going to fit all these important games into this little, size of a feature film? And it took years before the idea came along, which was, well, what if you didn't have that constraint? What if you just said, no, it's not a feature, it doesn't have a length. It's just as long as it needs to be. And so that's where we're at now, which is oh, right, the internet happened, right? Because in 2014, the idea was, oh, it'll be a feature film. It'll go on the festival circuit. We'll try to enter it in documentary film festivals and stuff. All that stuff is not important to me at all. It's just sort of, no, let's just tell the story. as long as we need to make it be. And also by breaking it into episodes, I think it's a much more straightforward way to watch nonfiction content, I'm the kind of guy that watches, these Netflix series that come out where it's like a 5-part documentary series about whatever. And you could have made that in an hour-and-a-half thing, but they decided to go long. And sometimes I really love that if it's a topic I care about.
Well, I'm looking forward to getting together with you in a few weeks. We're actually going to sit down at my studio and sort of break the story and decide how this series is going to play out and how it's going to be divided up. And we're going to talk about editing. And in the end, I'm going to go back and write a crazy 8-bit heavy metal score to it. So that'll be interesting. And that's really all I wanted to cover today, unless there's something else you wanted to get into or comment on.
Well, I just wanted to mention this idea of Ecstasy of Order as an existing movie. And what this other thing is. Originally, the idea for this, for Best of Five, was for it to be a sequel. We called it Ecstasy of Order 2 originally. And in many ways, it kind of is that. But at the same time, we realized that, that's an indie movie that not a lot of people have seen unless they're really into competitive Tetris. So one of the big things is making sure it's a movie you can watch that is self-contained, that explains what is Tetris? Why is this interesting? What are the hard parts and the easy parts and stuff? I think the other thing that I think is really noteworthy has to do with between 2014 and now, YouTube happened. And what we found out from YouTube was there were basically, Adam just began putting hours and hours and hours of footage of every tournament starting in about, I think, 2015 or maybe 2016. He started putting that stuff online. And then that became profitable. And today, the tournament's a big deal. It's been on ESPN twice. And the money is coming primarily from online, from YouTube. And people love watching hours and hours of classic Tetris stuff. So that the thing is, on the one hand, I'm a little embarrassed that it's 7 years later and I'm not quite done with my documentary, right? But the other side of that is, because so much has changed, we now know that people are not just willing to put up with watching a lot of Tetris, but they love it so much that they almost get angry if you don't give them more Tetris. And so kind of the end of this movie is going to be by the way, if you want hundreds of hours more of exactly this, just go on YouTube and just you get as much as you want. Because we've found this effect over and over again. And people who come to the event tend to get kind of mesmerized and say I never thought I would, want to then spend dozens of hours of my life staring at this, but, give it to me now, please. So I'm embracing that and saying that's part of what this movie is, just lots and lots of Tetris.
Well, very good. I'm looking forward to getting started on this thing. We've already started. I'm starting to review a lot of the footage, making lots of notes, analyzing things, learning more about Tetris myself, and I'm looking forward to continuing on this project. Do you have any expectations on any estimate on when someone might see one or more episodes of this?
Yeah, I think the stake I want to put in the ground, sort of for me, is I'd like to see something start to come out winter of this year, right? So the tournament this year is in October and into November, maybe even goes into December. I'm not even sure of the dates right now, but it'd be nice if we can start that by then. I should also point out, like many things, the past couple years has been challenging for this project. We did one of our main subjects unexpectedly passed away in January, and that was a huge blow, personally and professionally, and just in every way you can imagine. Right now, I've taken some time to deal with that. But what that means is there's a lot of uncertainty still about how exactly are we going to put this together in light of that. Now, the good news is, like you said, we're going to meet up and we're going to figure out what the story is and put it together. Yeah, I think this fall, or rather this winter. Let's put it that way. Winter of 2021.
Well, very good. And what's the URL that people can go look at?
Yeah, so if you go to bestof5movie.com, that's going to redirect you to Indiegogo, which is actually a place where you can watch an early trailer, which, by the way, has music from Carl in it, and me with a big COVID beard, which has since been removed. The beard, not the music. And there's also people who can back there, buy stuff if you want, or sign up for updates.
Yeah, so go buy some stuff there.
There's lots of stuff.
Come on, people. I don't see anyone buying anything. What's going on? We're going to wait right here until
wait
someone
right here.
buys
Yeah.
something.
Okay.
We just sold out of everything.
One sale, two sale. No, there's nothing left. Yeah.
Okay. Well, congratulations.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm gonna have to get rid of the all this stock that I used to have. I just have to toss it, I guess. Oh well, only sold out.
Okay. Well, I guess we're done.